Alright, in today's tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to create this. So the first thing we're going to do is duplicate our layer and pre-compose it by hitting Ctrl, Shift, and C, and then rename it to Hand Roto. Then by selecting our Roto tool, we're going to double click the Hand Roto layer and trim it till your hand is out of frame and begin rotoscoping. And once you're done rotoscoping, you're going to want to hit freeze. Then we're going to do the same exact thing to the other part where your hand comes back into frame and rotoscope it. And make sure you duplicate the original footage again and trim it. Now you should have 3 separate clips, 2 of them being your rotoed out hands. How many times did I say roto? I'm going to start by creating a null layer and renaming it to Hand Track 1. And then trim it to match the length of our hand roto. Then duplicate it and trim it. Then we're gonna go to our tracker and hit track motion. And make sure to check the rotation and scale boxes. Then you want to put your tracking points to a high contrasted part of your hand. You also want to make sure that you edit your target to the correct layer, so in this case, Hand Track 1. Then hit OK and begin tracking by hitting the arrows next to the Analyze. Now, once you're done tracking, you're gonna hit apply, then OK. Now I wanna test the track to make sure it's good. So I'm creating a solid layer and it doesn't really matter the color. Then I'm gonna hit the 3D box and align it to my hand. Then by using the pick whip, I'm gonna parent it to the null layer. Now, as you can see, the solid is tracked onto my hand, and that's letting us know that the track is good, and now we can delete the solid. We're going to do the same exact thing to the other hand, except this one, we don't need to check the rotation and scale boxes. We're just going to be tracking the position. Next, we need to auto trace. And to do that, we're going to go over to the Layer tab and go down to Auto Trace. And then you can adjust the settings, and these are the settings that I use. Then you can hit OK and let it auto trace. It's going to create another solid, so we're going to go to the Layer, then Solid Settings, and then change the color to black. And there are a few extra masks that it created, so we're just going to go ahead and delete those. And make sure you set the blending mode to screen. Next, we're going to add the SABER plugin to the solid and go to Customize Core and switch from SABER to Layer Mask. And now the SABER is following the mask that we created. And it actually already looks pretty cool, but it's not the effect we're going for. And now you can go over to the presets and find a fire one that best fits your shot. In this case, I found that the heat preset looks best. Now under Customize Core, you want to make sure that start and end offset are set to 0 and set a keyframe on the start offset on the first frame. Then after a few frames, set it back to 100. Now we have this. And all elements used in this effect are coming from ProductionCrate.com. If you don't already have a Production Crate account, I highly recommend that you make one. If you click the link in the description, you can get a pro account for only $50 a year. And with the pro account, you have access to the entire library. And they don't only just have VFX assets, they have 3D elements, sound design, graphics, and they even have their own plugins that I also use in this effect. But if you don't want to spend that money, they also have free assets that you can use as well. And you can still achieve the same effect without having to buy anything. But by using my affiliate link in the description, not only will you be helping me out, but you're also helping yourself out a lot, because I've used Production Crate for about 4 years now, and I honestly think I'm still going to be using it for the rest of my career. Now I'm going to start by adding in my fire elements. And if you're curious, these are all the elements that I used in this project. Now it's not gonna look perfect, so you're gonna have to do some manual tweaking with the position and rotation keyframes. You're gonna wanna make sure that you're parenting the fire elements to your hand track layer. At the beginning of the frame, when I'm igniting the flames, you're gonna wanna add a scale and opacity keyframe to make it scale up and fade in quickly. Then you do the same step 4 more times for the rest of your fingers. Yeah, it's kind of a process, I'm not gonna lie, but you get used to it. Now once you're done, you're going to want to duplicate your hand track layer, select the null layer and all your other fire elements, and pre-compose it again by hitting Ctrl-Shift-C. And this part is optional, but I'm going to add an exposure to the original footage layer and decrease it so you can see the fire a little bit better. Now on the hand roto layer, I'm going to add a color vibrance effect and change the color to orange. Then I'm going to decrease the vibrance and increase the brightness. Then duplicate the same layer and delete the effect on the bottom layer. Next, we're going to create an adjustment layer and rename it to Heat Distortion and put it above the other layers. Then trim the layer so that it matches the other ones and parent it to the hand track layer. Then create a mask around your hand and add the heat distortion effect. Then by hitting F on your keyboard, you can feather it. Now you can adjust the settings to your liking. I also forgot to add one more fire element to my hand, so inside the fire composition, I add the additional fire layer, and I'm just following the previous steps. Here's Miles, by the way. Now I'm gonna add my Ember assets and parent it to the hand track layer and set the blending mode to screen. Then I'm going to make it fade in by using opacity keyframes and also make it scale up. Now for the second hand part, we're going to follow the same steps as the first one, auto trace it and copy and paste the SABER plugin. And now I'm going to add another fire element, but this time just one. And I'm going to put it under the hand roto layer, set it to screen, and parent it to hand track 2. I'm going to do the same thing with the offset keyframes, but this time make it fade out. Now you should have something like this. I'm also going to add opacity keyframes to the layer as well. Now I'm going to add another adjustment layer and rename it. I also duplicated the roto layer and added these additional effects to the top layer. I also added keyframes to the exposure to decrease once I release the fire. Now back to the adjustment layer, you want to make another mask and just copy and paste the previous heat distortion effect to the new one and then parent it to the tracking layer. And next I'm going to add in my fireball element and then I'm going to flip it horizontally. Then I'm going to hit the 3D box and on the same layer adjust its orientations that best fits the shot. And also add keyframes to make the fireball shoot outwards. Now we're going to track the fireplace. Same thing like the other times, we're going to add a null layer and track the position to a high contrasted point. You can also check the rotation box, but I kind of got lazy and it doesn't make a huge difference since the camera isn't moving that much. Also, make sure to edit the target to the correct layer. Once that's tracked, we're going to add an additional fire element and set the blending mode to screen. Then parent that fire layer to the null layer. Then duplicate the original footage and we're going to roto out the fireplace. And on the fire layer, we're gonna go to where it says no matte and select the layer that you just rotoed out. Now the fire is actually inside the fireplace. Then you can increase the feather on the roto to soften the edges. Next, I added a color vibrance effect to the roto layer and unhide the layer. And make sure you unhide the layer. Then change the color to orange and increase the brightness. Then add opacity keyframe so that it fades in once the fireball makes contact with the fireplace. Then I just add another heat distortion layer around the fireplace and make sure that the layer is also parented to the fireplace track layer. And now it's just really fine-tuning the layers, cleaning up some noticeable flaws, and just making it look as clean as possible. And if you follow these steps correctly, you should have something like this. Now that's gonna wrap up today's tutorial. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys did, be sure to hit that like and subscribe, and also comment down some more video suggestions. And if you're new here, I post a new tutorial every Monday, so make sure you stay tuned. And with that being said, I will see you guys next Monday.